So I'm David Beck, and I work for Rotunda Software. We just recently developed this library to help with sort of along the same lines of what we're talking about, but specifically for views, because they tend to have lots of messages and it tends to become very complicated to manage them all. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the library. I'll go fast. I'll open for questions. Hopefully I don't go too fast for people. So this is a new library. So if you like it, please spread the word about it so that people can benefit from it.
Yes, can you switch to business here?
Oh, I'm sorry. Where did I put it here?
It's actually in the drop down a menu PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. Okay, there you go. Okay, so the way the library works to organize, better and dealing with hopefully some of these namespacing issues, if they do get out of control for your particular use case, is to recognize the fact that views have a hierarchy. There it is. Views have a hierarchy, and the hierarchy is dictated by their DOM elements. And it's not just that they have this hierarchy and that they correspond to the DOM element, but it matters a lot, the hierarchy, because for two main reasons. One is for encapsulation. Views in general should only know about, if you really want to encapsulate your code well and not make it kind of risk becoming a spaghetti mess, they should only know about themselves and the views underneath them in the hierarchy. They should not know about their siblings, and they shouldn't know about their parents in the hierarchy. So that matters a lot for that reason. It also matters for communication, because when views talk to each other, which they do all the time, they almost always, 85% of the time, they're talking to either their immediate children or they're talking to their parent group. And then maybe 10%, I'm just making these numbers up, but this is more or less how it works. 10% of the time after that, they're talking to their grandparents when they need to, after their descendants and their parents are talking to their grandparents, and then maybe 5% of the time they're talking to somebody else. So it's pretty rare, that case, where they're talking to somebody else that's not in that lineage. Okay, so what does the hierarchy look like? I think most people probably have an intuitive grasp. If you have a view or a page that looks like this, you have one view at the top. That's your parent view of everything, number one, and then you have 2, 3, which are subviews of that, and 4 and 5, which are subviews of number 3. So there you have your hierarchy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm actually going to break for 1 second here, and I'm going to show you the reason, or the project we were working on, have been working on, that sort of inspired this. To kind of put that hierarchy in context. So this is, unfortunately my screen size is not...
Green button.
Green button.
In the browser.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. So here we are. What are we talking about?
That was it.
Okay, so we do volunteer scheduling and management, and this is like a mock enrollment form. The idea is people can customize enrollment forms a lot. So this is me as an administrator. I can drag things around. I can drag objects into here, and basically create other fields or what have you. If I want an age field, for example, I can put this age field in here. It's a number field. So basically there are a lot of subviews going on here, and to demonstrate that I'm going to put a outline around all the different views that are here, so we can see all the different views that are here. So here are all the views on the page. So each one of these fields is its own view, and if you open up the dialog, you can see all the different subviews inside this field too. Now we actually use 2 tools to manage all these different views. One is called Backbone Subviews, and then the other is called Backbone.Courier. So Backbone Subview is super lightweight. It just helps you manage subviews and organize them. and then Courier is actually fits together with subviews. We developed both of those guys. So let me get back to the presentation. So here we have questions on how do views usually communicate in the context of the DOM, and how do we want them to communicate in the context of the DOM. So for any view that wants to know something about something that it contains, its children basically, it can ask its children directly because it has explicit references to its children already, is the way we look at it. It can just call a function on the children. So it's very easy, it's a hard dependency. So as Lynn was saying, these become really disastrous if you have hard dependencies in all directions. But if you just have them down, that's generally okay because your subviews are your father views or your parent views are creating your child views anyway, so they already have explicit references to them. So that's pretty easy, and most people already do that, in their apps. Now, talking with parents is a whole other question, and the way that I think most people approach this when they're new to Backbone is they end up listening and binding and listening events using this trigger and listen to pattern. So child fires an event, and the parent listens to that event and then does something, which is, again, this is 85% of the time you're either talking to parents or talking to children. So this will get you a long way in Backbone. But what happens is when you start wanting to talk with grandparents, that starts getting really complicated. And that's when people start using this event, the aggregators or other stuff to basically bypass steps, because otherwise you have trigger and bind and bind and trigger, and it just becomes a mess. So this is also where Backbone.Courier comes in. So what Backbone.Courier allows you to do is spawn a message which is distinct from an event. It's just related to views, and so messages just live in the view hierarchy, and you spawn a message from a child view that automatically gets percolated up to a parent view, and then the parent view can listen to that message and respond to the message, take any action it wants to take, which is great. It's clean. It's cleaner than the alternative we just looked at. But it also, the real value comes in is when you need to pass that message up further the hierarchy to the grandparents. And then there's a very easy interface for you to do that as well. So we're going to take a look at some examples on some actual code on how that works in the app that I just showed you guys. Before doing that, I just want to note that well, you can't really see it here, but this is actually a different color than this. This is blue, this is purple. And the reason being is that a lot of times you'll want to change the message as it comes up through the hierarchy, because let's say this is a resource, that I'm selecting, and the resource says, okay, I've been selected, firing a message or an event that I've been selected. So it spawns that event, and then it comes up to, let's say it's a bigger view right now. It doesn't want to pass on that same message, I've been selected, because it's not talking about me anymore, it's talking about my subview, my resource that's been selected. So a lot of times parent views will want to slightly alter the message so that it makes sense for the context of the parent view, and then the parent view is always emitting messages that make sense for the parent view. So
I might be jumping, just a real quick question. Yeah. Is it automatically bubbled up to the top most view by default using the framework? Or?
It will be stopped here unless there's a pass messages hash. So this is spawn. This is a function that is called by a view. So it's like this spawn or whatever. It gets automatically coupled up to the parent, and then if there's an all messages hash that matches the message, it'll execute some function. And then if there's a pass messages hash, it'll pass it up to the next field. If there's no pass messages hash, it won't continue to pass up. Yeah.
Do you have to find the parent-child relationship in a specific
No,
way?
you don't. It'll automatically go to the DOM to look to infer that.
Oh, who's in
that relationship? Right. You can override that, but I mean we've never tried it out of the context of the DOM. But there's basically a very simple function that you can override if you want to define a parent difference. It's always looking for parents.
So I'm assuming these methods are just encapsulating the bind and trigger methods internally as well, right? I mean,
no, there's actually no binding and trigger methods.
So how does the parent recognize that there's a message? Is it its own messaging? I mean,
Yeah, it's its own
okay,
message.
got
I
it.
mean, the code's not that complicated, but it basically is, it spawns a message, and then in the spawn, handler that is added to every view, when you include this plugin, it looks, it just traverses the hierarchy using the parent method, the jQuery's parent method, finds the next view.
But this is how the events populate anyway. I mean, events go up.
Yeah, that's right.
You're just providing a wrapper, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is for the backbone view layer, not the jQuery event.
I mean, jQuery you
Got
can
it.
do it. It's the same.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, jQuery you can do the same thing, but it's abstracted into backbone view layers. Okay, so
that?
How big is the library?
very small, maybe like, I don't know. I mean, backbone itself is really small, so I guess relatively speaking, it's not super. I mean, it's maybe a page and a half or something. But it's pretty small. And actually, that's a great question. So here's the API. It's really simple. So you have the view spawn, where you can spawn a message name, and you can also pass data up with the message. So you spawn a message name, selected or clicked or whatever you want, and you can pass application find data up with the message. You have an on messages hash that you can use to respond to the messages that you get from your children. You have a pass messages hash that you can use to keep on passing them further up the hierarchy. And you have a spawn messages hash, which is kind of like the convenience hash that you can just spawn messages from dominoes very easily. So, a field value has changed or something or whatever, and you want to percolate that up a bit. And another thing about jQuery events is one of the best practices of encapsulation is that views that are higher up the DOM tree shouldn't be messing with the DOM elements or events of the DOM elements of child views. So this neatly sort of it stops that. It lets you just get the information that you need and nothing else. So let's look at a demo. I'm going to quickly show you. So here's a demo where you have a very simple demo where you have this field right here, as you can see when I'm typing in there, the title bar is updating. So that is a child view, and you can see that there's nothing in between. There's just this view, and it's its parent who's listening to that. So it's a very simple case. And let's see how that looks. Here you have the spawn messages hash, which we talked about. It's when the key up event happens, it just spawns a message, a key up message. And then the parent view, which is in this case the dialog, is listening to that message here. So it says on key up from my name field view, update the title. And this is a source option here where it's saying I just want to listen to the key up message from this particular subview. And that is it's very easy to set up if you're using Backbone subviews, which is basically just allows you to name your subviews.
So can it be used for messaging between two siblings, or is it only going upward?
Only up. So if you want to do two siblings, what you do is the message will go up, and then you call a function directly on the child view. So remember, you always call functions, or at least the way we,
Most often you will have exchanges between siblings than going up and going down.
Well, most often you have exchanges, at least in our use case, we have exchanges between children and parents, right? But we do have siblings too, and what we do in that case is we call, so like for example right here, this is, so update title when the this isn't a really good example because it's the same